I'm Councillor Jeremy Newmark. I'd like to welcome members of the public, colleagues and officers to this evening's meeting. I'll be chairing the meeting, and in order to manage our business as effectively as possible, I'll invite people to speak one at a time to ensure that their contributions are properly heard. Therefore, please do not speak unless invited to do so. Fire evacuation procedure. On hearing the fire alarm, please leave the building immediately using the nearest available exit. Don't use the lift under any circumstances, and our assembly point is in the area in the Civic Offices car park next to the roundabout. You should not attempt to re-enter the building until it is known to be safe to do so. We'll move straight on to agenda item number 1, which relates to apologies and communications. I have no communications, nor do we have any apologies for absence. Declarations of interest, item 2. Before I call on members, I will declare an interest as the council appointed chair of Elstree Film Studios Limited in the agenda item 8.1 in the part 2 section of the meeting. I will be using my standing exemption to speak in that debate, but not to vote. Are there any other declarations of interest? Councillor Myers.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, same interest. Council appointed Director of Elstree Film Studios. Item 8.1 on the this afternoon's agenda. I have been given special dispensation from the Chief Executive Officer to stay in the meeting and participate, but I won't be voting in this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are noted. Item 3, speeches by visiting members. I take this opportunity to welcome Councillor Sullivan, Councillor Umron and Councillor Cohen. As usual, non-cabinet members attending our meeting are reminded that they may speak for a maximum of 3 minutes on any item on the agenda, with a maximum of 5 members per item, no more than 2 from any one political group, but we'll try to be as flexible as we can. Agenda item 4 is key decisions, of which there are none. Agenda item 5 is non-key decisions. Item 5.1 is the corporate policy officer post, which I will be presenting very briefly. As members will note from the attached report, one of the consequences of the establishment of our new project management grip office is that our current head of policy has effectively been promoted to run that office. The parts of her policy role that relate to our performance monitoring framework will transfer with her, as those will become functions of the new project program management office. This obviously leaves a gap in terms of our sort of more policy focused policy work, and this proposal will enable us to fill that gap and not expose us to a situation where we are left without that significant policy support on some of our key campaign issues that have been passed as motions at notice on council over the past few years. Things like campaign on crossbow-related crime, violence against women and girls, and some of the other equalities and community-related issues. And also significantly, it will bolster our ability to adopt policy-based advocacy positions in terms of getting the best deal for Hertsmere's residents in the context of the ongoing discussions around local government reorganisation. All of the details, role description and financial implications are as set out in the report. Any questions or comments from visiting members? No, if there are none, I will invite members to comment on this item. Councillor Giorgio.
Just to say that I agree with this item. I think that as the Cabinet Member for Resources, I understand why it doesn't need to come to the Personnel Committee because of the only 2 years temporary nature of the role. I think it's important that when we make policy changes or we make motions to the Council, that we have somebody in place that makes sure that isn't just a piece of paper and that those things actually come to fruition, that we actually make actual progress on delivering some of those items in those agenda items. And so I just wanted to say that I give my support to this item in this Cabinet. Thank you.
It's on. In which case, can I invite members to agree the recruitment of a corporate policy officer on a 2-year fixed-term contract with funding for the post at circa £53,000 to be allocated as set out in the report. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. In a similar vein, we'll move on to agenda item 5.2, our community events officer post, and I'm going to ask Councillor Myers to outline this report.
Thank you very much, Chair. Very happy to propose the recommendations to create a dedicated events officer role. Sits very squarely in my portfolio and explain why it's not just desirable but necessary for Hertsmere as an organisation. Hertsmere delivers an extraordinary range of events across the borough, from large-scale civic occasions, cultural celebrations and community festivals, to commemorative events, seasonal programmes and partnership-led initiatives in our parks and public spaces. These events are not peripheral to what we do. They're essential to building civic pride, strengthening community cohesion and bringing people together across our diverse borough. But the reality is, delivering events at this scale requires coordination, expertise and accountability. It requires a single dedicated point of leadership who can plan strategically, coordinate across departments, work with partners, manage risk, ensure compliance and maximise value for residents. At present, responsibility is fragmented across teams and officers whose primary roles lie elsewhere. This is not a criticism of those officers, they do exceptional work. But without a dedicated events lead, we risk inefficiencies, missed opportunities and placing unsustainable pressure on staff. An events officer provides the essential organisational backbone, someone who can professionalise our approach, ensure consistency, unlock external partnerships, support community groups and ultimately enable Hertsmere to do more and do it better. This role is about capacity, it's about coordination and it's about recognising the events are not an optional extra. They are a core part of how we deliver our priorities as a council. And if we're serious about culture, community and civic life in Hertsmere, then we must ensure we have the right structure in place to support it. This recommendation does exactly that. And that recommendation is that the Cabinet agree the recruitment of an events officer on a 2-year fixed-term contract with funding for the post circa £52,620 to be allocated from the contingency budget within the 2026-27 revenue budget. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. Visiting members, Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Chair. And at this moment, I will declare a pecuniary interest as an employee of Inspirall, although I'm just alluding to them in what I'm saying. I just have a question on whether you've spoken or engaged with any stakeholders that are currently doing these roles. So we have Inspirall who do those kind of festive and other bits for our parks. We have faith forums and groups and the towns and parishes. Have we done an engagement event to see how they can all work together with this new officer and whether or not are we stepping on toes or will there be buy-in?
Thank you. I can confirm that we have engaged with the town and parish councils, as many of the town and parish councils primarily have an entertainment remit. I think they almost all have some dedicated events capacity and some of them have events officers of their own. We did posit the notion of this becoming a shared role, but I think the feedback that came back was their own events capacity is already stretched and they did not see that as a viable way forward. I suspect that means that the main beneficiaries of this post will actually be those areas that don't currently have towns and parishes. But, Councillor Myers, do you want to come in on the sort of broader point.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, we do have Inspire All particularly in mind with this. Working with Inspire All is going to be central to this role. So they're going to be the central point for people to come into from partnerships like Inspire All, from the towns and parishes. At the moment, we don't have anybody that is the central points person for events in Hertsmere. It's broken up across many different roles and within different sections of the council, and it's just not sustainable. So yes, we have thought about it. We have spoken to many of the stakeholders, and generally the feedback's been positive.
Thank you. Councillor Richards, you wanted to come in?
Thank you. Yeah, from an unparished area, I've seen firsthand the excellent work that community groups have played, and Inspire All indeed. But I think the key phrase really in the report is ad hoc, and sort of being able to sort of professionalise this and provide that sort of fluid oversight and overarching role is really key here. So I absolutely support it.
Thank you. Before I move to Councillor Gray, I'm just going to check whether or not there are any further comments from visiting members. No. Councillor Gray.
Thank you, Chair. And this is a very sensible appointment. Hertsmere is rightly known for the big set pieces, commemoration times around the borough. It doesn't go unnoticed that a lot of other boroughs and districts tend to come to our events because they're known for the quality of the events that we put on. But also we know that behind the scenes, although the event goes off superbly, like a swan sailing down a river, underneath that, it's all hands to deck. We see officers dropping their day job for several hours to kind of pull together the event and make sure it happens and happens smoothly. So while we thank those officers for doing that, it's not their day job, and this point of contact will be there to support anything that this council wants to do, but also work with our community groups and work with our leisure partners, etc., to bring these events and make sure they happen and happen really well. So I fully support it.
Thank you. Any further comments from Cabinet members? No, in which case I would like to invite members to agree the recruitment of an events officer on a 2-year fixed-term contract with funding for the post at circa £52,620 to be funded as set out in the report. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. We'll now move on to agenda item 5.3, which is the governance arrangements for the Elstree Immersive Experience. As members are aware, this is a project that has been instigated and catalysed by the council, not least via a £3.3 million capital allocation, or £3.3 million package of capital funds, the bulk of which have been provided by the council, and additional funding through central government and the University of Hertfordshire. It's an incredibly significant flagship project with a very tight timeline for delivery. Needless to say, it's always been clear that this will need a purpose-built vehicle to deliver such a complex and cutting-edge project. It almost certainly couldn't be delivered directly by the council, but getting the governance of that purpose-built vehicle right has taken a great deal of time and thought, and I'd like to particularly thank our legal department through our head of Assistant Director, Legal Affairs and Democratic Services, Harvey Patterson, and Adam Morley of Hearts Futures, who have put in most of the work on this. And effectively, these governance arrangements seek to square a number of circles, primarily locking in both the relevant academic inputs and expertise, the relevant professional sector-based experience and expertise, and the relevant grounding in the local community, the involvement of the Elstree and Bournemouth Film and TV CIC, which is a joint partnership between the Elstree and Bournemouth Town Council and the Borough Council. And as you will have seen from the paper, there are a number of sort of different roles and remits that are taken on by the various bodies, but the overall blend is one which will ensure the council's ownership, accountability, public accountability through its role as the majority shareholder, with a shareholder agreement very similar to that which is in place for Elstree Film Studios, but leave the council one step removed from the day-to-day operational running of the company, which is the right place, in my view, for the council to be in. There will be a board of directors overseeing the strategy and compliance of the special purpose vehicle that will sort of oversee and be responsible for the project on a day-to-day basis. Their role will be strategy, risk management, assurance frameworks, and general oversight. The report allows for the provision of an executive director who will also sit on the board and have core responsibility for day-to-day leadership of the project, staff management, and so on. And there will be a range of delivery partners, including the university and the aforementioned CIC. Each of those different bodies will have its own very clearly defined authority, parameters, and limits. I'm going to pass to Harvey Patterson to outline anything I may have missed. Before I do, to add that the sort of other part of the blend, if you like, of the governance here was also in a much more practical and pragmatic way to ensure that we were able to construct a vehicle that would enable us to operate in the most tax efficient and effective manner, which is why various groups of both lawyers and accountants have been involved in this process, working up this document over the past 8 or 9 months. Harvey.
Thank you, Councillor Newmark, and not a great deal to add to that, except to remind the Cabinet that two of the recommendations before you today are to Council, which will be asked to consider them tonight. And that's in relation to the appointments that we want to make to the board, so it can be quorate and begin its work, and also to ask Council to permit the appointment of an interim managing director for a period not exceeding 12 months, with a remuneration limit of £100,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Visiting members. Councillor Amron.
No, I just really want to say, I've been supportive of this from the very beginning, and if it was appropriate, I'd probably invest in it myself. But, there's nothing about it I don't like. I think it's a really, really good piece of work by everybody involved. That's what I want to say.
Thank you. Any further points from visiting members? Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you. Yeah, any question I had, I'd already spoken to the legal officer and been assured of a discrepancy. That won't be an issue for tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that relates to the papers for full council, and that will be pointed out accordingly. So thank you for your eagle eyes on that. Members, Councillor Gray.
Yeah, thank you. And this is a fantastic project, and it had cross-party support, which was really, really good. Obviously, it makes sense. We want to get this up and running as fast as possible. So the interim director is a really good idea. What I'm really particularly proud of, though, the fact is that we're going to look at having 2 educational partner directors sitting on this board. Because although I've got no doubt that this is going to be a cutting-edge leisure and entertainment complex, the really exciting thing also was the opportunity for educations and skills that would sit right in the heart of this borough, and we put that front and centre in the makeup of the board, so that's to be really welcomed.
Councillor Shenton.
Thank you, Councillor Newmark. We've already made the in-principle decision to support this project. It's a good project. This is the business side of it, to put the appropriate things in place. We can't work on goodwill forever. We have to put the proper structures in place at some time.
Thank you. Any further comments from members? None. In which case, I would like to...
Can I just ask for clarification about how many educational partner directors there are? Because it says one under the governance architect.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, can I clarify that? The composition of the board is going to be 9 members, including an executive director. There'll be 5 council-appointed non-executive directors. There is going to be, at the moment, our educational partner is the University of Hertfordshire, and they have indicated a desire only to have one appointment. And what we're proposing for the council tonight is to authorise the officers to have a competitive interview for another independent non-exec who may well come from that sector. And just to make the point also that there is another appointment which is reserved to Elstree Film Studios, and we'll be inviting them, subject to council agreement later tonight, to make a nomination. That would complete the board and its desired composition.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So we're asking Cabinet this evening to agree the following recommendations. Firstly, to establish a company limited by shares to act as the SPV for the Elstree Immersive Experience, and delegate the power to form and promote the company to Chief Executive and Assistant Director, Legal and Dem Services, in consultation with myself. Secondly, that we agree the company shall be called the Elstree Immersive Experience Limited and have the civic offices as its registered office. Thirdly, that there'll be an initial share capital of 100 shares, each having nominal value of £1. 90% of them, so 90 of those shares, will be issued to the council as non-paid up shares, and 10% of them, so 10 shares, will be reserved for an appropriately constituted CIC. Recommendation 4 is to adopt the model articles of association set out in Table A to the Company's Model Articles Regulations 2008, subject to the modifications set out in the Draft Articles of Association Appendix 2 to the report in front of us, and delegating responsibility to our Assistant Director of Legal and Democratic Services to make any amends he considers necessary or expedient to protect the Council's interests. Fifthly, that the company will have a board of directors comprised on the basis that has just been outlined. And finally, to confer upon the Council this evening the right to appoint 5 non-exec directors who shall be members or officers of the Council, and 1 independent non-exec director, the right of appointment of which shall be conferred upon Elstree Studios Limited, and the education partner, University of Hertfordshire, the right to nominate 1 non-executive director, and confer upon the board of directors itself the right to appoint a managing director, subject to prior approval of the council. Are members happy to agree those recommendations? Agreed. Thank you.
You've got 1.2 and 1.3 as well. Those are your recommendations to the council.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So the second set of recommendations, which point to this evening's meeting of council, that we will, as the Cabinet, request the council to nominate those 5 NEDs to the board, and their appointment shall take place immediately upon the incorporation of the company. And finally, that in order to progress the expedition of this project, to request that council this evening agree that the board of directors be authorised to appoint that managing director initially on an interim basis for a fixed term not exceeding 12 months without the prior approval of the council, provided that the remuneration doesn't exceed £100,000 per annum. That's because we need to get someone in place pronto, and
Technical amendments for agreements.
some technical amendments set out in paragraphs 1.51 and through to 1.54 that I believe we are instructing Harvey to make in consultation with the Chief Executive and myself. Are people happy with that mammoth list of recommendations? Thank you. We'll be asking questions afterwards. Right, agenda item 6, any other business that the Chair considers urgent? There is none. Agenda item 7, the date of next meeting. The next meeting of Cabinet is scheduled for 6 p.m. on the 11th of March. Item 8, exclusion of the public. Members, can we please confirm that we're happy to go into closed session under section 100A4 of the Local Government Act 1972, which will involve excluding members of the public from the meeting for the EFS update item. Dispensation has been given, I think, by myself as chair of the meeting to enable the head of studios and head of finance at the studios to remain in the meeting for this item in order to be able to help us with any questions and matters of detail. Can I ask if members are happy to go into part 2 on that basis? And can I ask for verbal confirmation that the webcast has been switched off?